Welcome to another episode of Victoria's Lounge from Fairmont to the Norfolk. Now, have you ever considered who thought about the design concept of where you live or built it up, let alone the person who sold it to you? Well, you're about to meet three women who play roles in each of those stages, women in real estate who will talk about their failures, their successes, the lessons learned, and hopefully get you thinking differently about real estate in Kenya. Let's meet them now. Emma Miloyo is a practicing architect and a respected name in East and Central Africa. She also made history by becoming the first female president of the Architectural Association of Kenya. Lucy Kanyonyo is a developer looking to shake up the property industry with possibly Kenya's first luxury retirement home. She wasn't always into real estate, but her entry into the industry was for a rather selfish reason. Liz Nyambura is a practicing real estate agent in her 6th year. She has wide experience in both sales and letting of residential, commercial, and industrial properties. All right, let's get the conversation started. I'm really excited about this one because we haven't necessarily had women in the real estate industry come and talk about their journeys, their careers, failures, successes. And let me start with you, Lucy, because when it comes to a developer, I don't think people really understand what goes into that. But take us through your journey. Why do you decide to get into developing properties?
Very strangely, I just found myself being a developer. I had a need that I could not find anybody to meet that need. And I realized that need, there are not many people developing senior citizens retirement village, senior citizen homes with assisted living, which is my next stage in life. So I was looking for where I'll be, my next stage in life, and I could not find. And I decided, okay, this is a need that needs to be filled. Why don't I be the person to give people that option? So I found myself as a developer.
So what are some of the challenges that you initially met coming into that space?
My biggest challenge was dealing with contractors. Mm-hmm. You know, most contractors are men. So when they look at you, they think you don't know, you know, or they think that you don't have standards that you're looking for. Mm. I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, so in other fields. Yeah. So I'm very on top of things and I'm very critical. So I found that it was very difficult to get the right person to work with. But you find ways to overcome that, you know. So I hooked up with a company that deals with buildings. Mm-hmm. So they take over the contractor away from me.
I mean, it's a tough industry also considering the risk factors that come into entering a space like that. When it comes to property, it fluctuates depending on the environment. For you, Liz, you're a real estate agent, so you're on the other side of the spectrum from Lucy. What got you into selling properties?
Actually, when I started selling properties, I was not really looking into getting into real estate. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to sell. I mean, it's something that is it's so much fun for me to just do selling and marketing in general. But I wasn't sure what exactly I wanted to sell. So initially I was just looking for a job and I ended up in a real estate company. And I liked it. I just started growing my interest from there. I learned quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I must say it was mostly there were a few female colleagues that I learned from, but the biggest influence was one male colleague who actually, I think I learned quite a bit from him.
And does gender play a role also in your space as it does for Lucy as well?
I would say yes, it does. There are very many male agents and there's this like opinion that the clients or most people have that it is only the men who can actually do most of the work in terms of going to the field and going to the most remote areas and looking for those properties that you need, and you know, so they feel like maybe you wouldn't do the same kind of job or even the same quality that a man would deliver, which is wrong. It is false, very false. Yeah.
And I think it's a notion that kind of has stuck with us in the African context, because property was always kind of related to men. So when you have a woman entering into, you know, that space or that idea, it's kind of very foreign.
Yes.
And I think even for women to feel, no, I actually belong in this space. And Emma, for you, you had to kind of carve out your own niche in the architecture space. Tell us about your journey.
Yes. So I've always been a creative in a sense, and I didn't see myself even as a young girl sitting in an office and pushing paper and doing reports. So I'd always wanted to be in the creative industry, and I loved buildings, and from a very young age, and it was a natural career choice for me. But when I got to university, and it was a technical university, I was shocked, because I'd always been in all-female schools, convent schools for that matter, since I was 6, and to land into the space, and we were 10% female population out of, you know, all the men. It was, in terms of a culture shock, yes, it was. But in a way, the school was also very, we didn't have perceptions that women can't do this or men can't do this. And there were other female students who were excelling. And so it was not a notion that really this is, that women can't do this in terms of architecture. So even from the university level, I never really faced that sort of, other than the culture shock, overcoming a stigma was not as big as I had expected. And I found the same in industry. As much as it's male dominated, I found, like she said, very many men who are willing to see a change, to see a woman take over. Yes, our skills are different in terms of male and female, even in managing, because an architect, other than being a creative, architects actually direct the building process. So we're in charge of the contractors that she's talking about. In terms of selling the space, we interact with the marketing agents. We're sort of the hub and the center of a building from beginning to end, from the dream that the developer has to the point of the tenant and someone, and we're the connecting fabric all through that. But I found that really people have been very supportive, and the novelty of it all, of seeing a woman in a position. Yes, there have been some challenges, but on the whole, I found both women and men being very, very supportive, which is maybe not the story that's not out there. But men do support women, and yes, I may not bark at a contractor in a deep bass voice, but I have other soft skills that I can still communicate, and they will listen to me and respect me.
Yeah, and let's take a look at a day in the life of Emma as an architect. She said, you know, of course, they work with the developer all the way down to the agent, and showing that whole process and how it works. Let's take a look at this.
Hi, Hudson. Can you call Maura and tell him I'll be coming? Thanks. So Emma's mother, Emma's an architect at Design Source, and Emma is president of the Architectural Association of Kenya. And in another life, I also like hanging around children, so I'm also proprietor of Kyoto School. I've been an architect for almost 11 years, unbelievably. I love architecture because architecture is, like I said, a creative field, and I am a creative, and I think we are the ultimate creatives. As much as I'm the architect, many times the client actually knows what they want, and I'm just helping them to realize that dream. So working together, I wouldn't say every design is perfect. I don't think there's anything perfect in this world, but as much as possible, you try and fulfill the client's brief, you try and meet what their dream project, interior office, look and feel of a certain place is. What's the full name? Challenges are many, and again, like in every career, in every profession. Coming from a creative background and spending 6 years in university, learning how to be a creative, and then coming out here and realizing that life is, and architecture is a lot more about managing people and managing teams than only drawing. So that learning curve has been exciting, a challenge, but an exciting challenge, and I think it's been wonderful because it makes you a leader one way or the other, because you learn how to deal with people, you learn how to get results out of people. I think making change in the world, I think I like to say that I'm an architect and I'd like to see the world change one building at a time. If you do what you do and you do it well, people will see that and people will believe in you. To any woman out there, just do your best. People will see it. Architecture is a career for you if you're a creative, if you are excited about buildings. It is a tough course, especially at university level. A few sleepless nights, both at university and even after in your career. But just hanging there, there's a lot in store. Come along, come along.
You know, it's amazing when you look at that and, you know, your journey up until this point, which I was so glad to see, and actually you had told me about this, you became the chair of the Architectural Association of Kenya.
Yes.
How does that make you feel? Because
Yes.
a woman heading up, you know, an association like that.
Yes, yes. I didn't get into the association really thinking that I'm going to be the president or anything like that. I got in because I wanted to make a change, and I saw that was the best conduit to change around me, change in our industry. And somehow I found myself as president, of course, and seeing that I was very passionate. People told me, please get into leadership. And I think the time was right. So being the first female president is very, very important to me in setting in also mentoring other young women to come into leadership and to come to the fore,
right.
And just being up there on a pedestal, and so that other younger girls can see that it's not a big deal, you know. There's nothing special about me that is more special than say they are,
right.
And they can actually do this. I found it has had a very great impact, and more female leaders are coming through in industry, and even just speaking towards women in real estate, we formed a caucus and a network of women through the whole entire real estate cycle. And it's been wonderful to talk to other women, to talk about our challenges, to mentor young professionals, because that's where there's been a very big gap, students and professionals. So paying it forward in a way that, yes, we've made it, but we can't shut that door, and we have to hold it open for other women to come through. And same with the young professionals, they have to hold it open for other students to come through, because in the academic cycle, it's not a big deal. We have a lot of women coming into real estate, but in practice, and people getting into the industry, there's been a lot of, there's been glass ceilings in that respect. So it is important to me to be in these leadership positions just to inspire other women.
Amazing, amazing. And we don't realize how important it is, like you're saying, to have women in those decision-making roles to really see a change in the industry. On that note, let's take a short break. You're watching Victoria's Lounge. The conversation continues after this. All right, welcome back. We're still here with the ladies of real estate. You know, Lucy, I want people to wrap their minds around what it takes to really be a developer. Of course, you talked about the headaches when it comes to dealing with contractors. But you didn't come from a real estate background. We were talking about this during the break in terms of maybe an architect or real estate, agent, someone who had an idea of how this industry works. But you came in really from, there's a problem and I want to fix it. And you took a huge risk to want to kind of start this new development. But kind of take us through your thinking process in wanting to, get into that space, but then also sell the idea and have people buy into it.
You see, I was creating something for my generation. My generation is maybe, I was catering for about 50-year-olds to 70-year-olds, or beyond 70.
Yeah.
I've been in Nairobi for the longest of time. We've gone to school with so many people in my generation, and I felt that I'm acceptable to them if I come up with an idea, because I've done a few firsts in my life, and I'm also very talkative and pushing the issue if I believe in it. So I was so sure that this dream was going to succeed. But the concept actually was very challenging because people were not getting it. people are not looking at their future, and people, they kind of like want to blank that. But I've realized that it has changed people's lives.
Yeah.
People are now thinking, yes, by the way, where will I be? People are now thinking, what kind of life do I want to be in my next stage in life?
Right, right.
So for you to be responsible, you've got to know where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Are you going to have your children take care of you, or are you going to be in a place where if all your life you're in the middle class or maybe in the upper class, are you going to wait until your children take you to mji wa wazee or something because you had no plan?
Yeah, yeah.
And also, it's responsible for you to put that burden on your children. I just wanted to give people an option.
And what about the financing end of it?
I just called a few people and told them, look, this is what I have. Why don't you come on board and we start this together? At least in my old age, I know I'll be next to you. I know I'll be next to you, and you want to be next to me. So that's how I raised my first capital.
Wow. So pooling together with people who are more or less in the same stage as you are and wanted what you want later on in life,
Yes,
that is.
that's how I pooled my first capital.
Wow.
Okay, then I started the development. Now I'm looking for the big, I never knew I was going to get here, but now I'm looking for the big money.
Yes.
So that I can actually build, because friendship is not currency. You know, you need to have the money to build.
Yeah.
This is a concept that's not very common.
Yes.
So actually, some investors are very interested. I have somebody from India who wants to come and join us and do the hospital, and he's doing a senior citizen development there in India with assisted living. So you see, it's interesting because I'm not competing with very many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Liz, what do you make of the Kenyan market now? Because, okay, you're hearing Lucy's grand idea of bringing something new and necessary, you know, when you think about it for the Kenyan market. But how would you describe the property market now as it stands, considering the 2017 that we had?
Well, for obvious reasons, 2017 was quite a challenging year.
Yeah.
For those of us who are on the selling end, it was quite a challenging year because not very many people were willing at that point to let go of their coins, you know, knowing the instability at that time. Yeah, but I feel like things are looking up. Actually, towards the end of the year, even the last month of 2017, it already started looking like, you know, things are looking up. People are beginning to feel to have more confidence. They now want to invest more, and I like the fact that there are a few other people who are there's a lot of growth in real estate in terms of also agencies. They're not just looking to sell property anymore. They're looking to sell property and have an impact. There are a few organizations who are now doing a new thing where they're selling property and in the process having an impact in the community and you know, helping where they can, and it's very interesting. It's really growing in that way, and the concept of the mixed development use projects that we're having that are coming up, which is quite exciting. It is something that in the past we were not doing. It was just about selling houses and offices in a totally different area, and the industrial area was a totally different place. But the fact that it's actually a bit more acceptable, people are opening up to it. And I like Lucy's concept so much because it's something we rarely think about. Who thinks about where I'm going to live when I'm 85? Rare, it's very rare, you know, but she's providing that. She's given that option where, fine, you've lived your life, you've had all your investment, but you need somewhere where you can have your companionship and have your peace, and you know, and I like that because there's a lot that the market is opening up to, the new concepts, and even hers, I know, will definitely take off for that reason because people are opening up a bit more. Yeah.
Which areas do you feel most people are kind of gravitating to? Is it residential? Is it retail?
Well, retail, let's say between 2015 and 2016 thereabout, there was quite a big growth in retail in Kenya as compared to the other areas in East Africa. And again, in 2017, we saw a bit of a slow because there was a period where there was not much of retail spaces that were being taken up. You have malls where, in fact, there is one mall at the moment which literally has become a dead mall right now. Yeah, which is very sad. But I'd say the fact that we're trying to come up with those, as I say, the mixed-use development that is catering for all that, for the residential bit, the commercial, and the industrial. So there's growth in all areas. If there's one area that I am sure will never die is residential. People will always need somewhere to live. They will always need somewhere to live. Yeah. In the commercial, it had been also a challenge for the past 2 years because the supply has been much higher than the demand. There was a lot of office space, there was a lot of retail space, and there was not as much demand as there was supply. So there was, it became very tricky, and it literally became a buyer's market because it reached a point where buyers would dictate how much or what they're willing to pay or what terms they get into for that reason. But the mixed-use development, that's the way to go. I feel that that's the way to go in the real estate because, I mean, in the real estate market in Kenya, it caters for all the needs. And if you're a developer and you're looking at something like that, then you're good to go because you're providing a lifestyle. Somewhere people can work, they can earn their money, they can live there, they have their amenities where their children can grow and everything, you know, all, let me not use that phrase, all in one house, It's interesting because it's almost underpinned by that whole social aspect. You know, people feel that this really meets each of my needs at every level. So very interesting. Let's see if more of those come up. We're seeing a few of them, but let's see more. We're seeing a few of them, and they're actually taking off.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Well, let's take off for a few minutes on this break. We'll be right back. You're watching Victoria's Lounge. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Victoria's Lounge. Now, Emma, you know, I work in the news and we talk a lot about these grand mega projects, of course, spearheaded by government. And there's a lot of room because infrastructure will always need something like that, especially here in Kenya. But several times we see outsiders coming in to do those jobs. So the question is, are our local actors, you know, do they have the capacity to be able to deliver on such projects?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and it's the big debate in our industry, even among professionals, that there's a lot of influx of foreign actors, as you would say, whether it's contractors, whether it's developers, and whether it's professionals in terms of consultants, engineers, architects, and the like. There's big debate, but what really, for me, in terms of the big projects, for example, the SGR, really, we've not built a railway for over 100 years. What's important for us as Kenyans is to ensure that there's technology and knowledge transfer, such that in 5 years, in 10 years, we're still not having very many foreign players. And maybe then having Kenyans actually going out and designing SGRs and other mega projects, be it Two Rivers and the like, and having the capacity to do that. But for now, we do have, you know, a challenge in terms of capacity in knowledge and just the sheer number of professionals who've done mega projects. But I think the fact that Kenyans are experiencing all these mega projects is good for us, and we must then transfer that into other projects where Kenyans are actually designing them.
I really like the fact that you mentioned, you know, a Kenyan can build an SGR in Malawi or in Nigeria. You know, we can actually help each other out, that whole intra-Africa connection. But when it comes also to opportunities for women, from where you sit, where can they plug in? Someone's watching this and they're thinking, I would love to get into the property market. I would love to get into real estate. But where can I plug in? I mean, I don't know if they can be as bold as Lucy to go and become a developer, but what are some of the areas they can tap into?
I think, and I really admire Lucy, that if you're just going to do your typical 10-story apartment in Kilimani and all that, you may not, the other competitors in that space, the other people who have done that, this is their 15th, 16th development, but I think women can be innovative. We can look for social needs. I think that's something that really a woman would have come up with, you know, in terms of thinking of social needs, thinking about schools and the like. So I'm also excited that other than the residential and typical apartments, that we are seeing a lot of new schools coming in. And with that, there's a lot of real estate development, and you're creating communities around that. So for women, I think to challenge them, not to come into the space and just business as usual. Think of a problem in society and create a solution, and it will work. And you can fail at it. It's a big risk, but you must get up again and try again, because the first time will be a learning journey. The second time, you'll crack it. So not to be afraid to fail. But I think it's important also for government to support women, because access to, you know, collateral is a challenge for women. That, like you had said, that traditionally property was held in men's hands. So even access to, you know, collateral to take to take loans and the like has been difficult. And maybe Lucy's model was just coming together with certain people and picking enough momentum to then be able to approach a financial institution to get financing. But government and private sector must start looking at these social projects and supporting women in that regard. So you'll find a lot of the women developers were actually backed by their husbands or their fathers, or it's old money in a sense. So it has been a difficult journey for women in this space in terms of developers, not maybe as consultants or real estate agents, but just being the ones at the fore in financing this project. So we look forward to a lot more diversity in thoughts and ideas.
You know, Lucy, I'm so inspired by the fact that you were willing to take, you know, that jump, and hopefully it comes into fruition and people are inspired to begin more and more projects, you know, like that. But what's something before you came in you wish you knew?
I wish I knew what being a developer is. I had the idea, romantic idea, I knew exactly what I want, but I actually never thought about the journey of a developer. So it's been a journey. So it's been a journey. I knew nothing. I have never developed, so I really knew nothing. I learned from scratch, but I knew what I wanted to do. As long as you know where you want to be, then you find somebody to take you the steps to where you want to be.
Wow, amazing.
Vicky, yes, jump in, because she says she never knew, she didn't have anyone to, and that's what we are saying about forming, you know, this network that we have, that she's able to inspire other women and also just, you know, hold someone's hand in this journey so they don't have to make the same mistakes. And it's excellent that she's taken the leap, but people don't need to repeat the mistakes.
No, absolutely. And for you, Liz, what is your hope, at least for the property market? Of course, you mentioned the future could be these mixed developments, but what's your hope for the property market moving forward?
Moving forward, my hope is that more and more Kenyans will be able to afford, especially to owning a home. It's a bit of, we're still at the point where for you to actually own that property or own that home, you're considered to be quite, you know, wealthy or well off. Let me use that. I hope that we are getting to somewhere where we have more affordable housing that is practical, because we've seen projects in the past where they came up with affordable housing and it was affordable, but wow, it was not practical. So you have a project that is in the middle of some very remote area somewhere, and you know, the kind of people you're trying to capture, you have to consider that they have families, they are growing families, they have young children, these children need to go to school, the parents need to still provide for the children, so it needs to be practical. So I'm hoping that we'll have developments that are more practical, that are more affordable for Kenyans to be able to access, you know, and be able to, you know, invest in real estate. I'm also hoping that in terms of, because an issue also has been in financing, and that has deterred a lot of investors. It has made very difficult for most people to invest in real estate. It becomes this you know, mysterious thing that when people hear that so-and-so has a real estate development, they're like, wow.
How? Yes.
How? Like, how did they even do that? How did they even crack and everything? So I'm hoping that also in terms of borrowing and financing, it will become easier and more accessible to us, to the local Kenyan, to be able to actually start having their dream and own their home and have their investment and have something to leave for their children. That is what I'm hoping for the real estate market. And I would like to encourage the real estate agents, even the women who are coming in real estate. We have failures. You come into it and there's sometimes you don't do as well as you expected to do in a project or selling certain properties. That does not mean that you cannot do well. It just, you know, it's just that happened, learn from it, move on. I would just encourage all those ladies who are coming into it, just to don't shy away at the first, because that happens a lot, you know. And since we're not selling, we're selling $1 million properties and products. You're not selling something cheap. So a sale might not come tomorrow. You don't talk to a client today and the sale comes tomorrow. You just have to be quite resilient for you to see results. So I'd like to encourage, because that's one of the challenges that most people face when they're selling in real estate.
Patience, certainly a quality you really need, especially when it comes to real estate. And Emma, you mentioned earlier the importance of having someone like you, a woman, in the decision-making roles to open doors for the younger ones coming after you. But what would you tell them, you know, in terms of pitfalls they are likely to meet when beginning their journey and throughout? You know, I'm sure you still go through them now.
Yes. And I don't think there's any profession without any pitfalls or challenges. And really, yes, the training is rigorous in a sense, and you will have sleepless nights. It's sort of a tradition in architecture that sometimes you'll go 2 nights without sleeping because you're trying to deliver on a project, even in practice sometimes. So just that, meeting deadlines and working towards a pitch, and you know, if it's a competition and the like, even in practice sometimes we have those kind of things, and working towards something. So the pitfalls are there, but the challenges, I wouldn't even call them pitfalls. They're challenges, but every profession has challenges, and it's nothing that you can't overcome as, you know, as a woman and the like, and just keeping at it and being ambitious and knowing and being a go-getter. And you know, if you fall, you get up again. If a client doesn't like something you did, it's okay. You know, or if you lose a client, there'll be other clients. And if you know you have it, you will get it.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up, I really want to get your thinking on this, because Liz mentioned this whole issue of affordability, especially when it comes to access to housing. Of course, we've heard the president make commitments of what they'll do from the government side. But even from thinking of concepts, practicality and affordability, how can architects and those at the thinking and concept stage really help answer that?
I'm very excited that #2 on the Big 4 agenda for the government is affordable housing, because it has been a very serious need. I mean, in the last 20 years, we've seen informal settlements come up, which were not there in the 80s, and there was more thought in terms of housing the poor. And it is a must. We must think of it, not only in home ownership, but there are some people even putting food on their table. They can't forget about home ownership. By the time you can own a home, even if it's 1 million shillings, that's not everyone. That's not even probably 60% of the country can't afford that. So government just working towards, first of all, housing the poor, like we used to in terms of social housing. It's something that happens world over, and having that subsidized. I think the Jubilee government is focused on home ownership, which is also very good, and having people being able to own. I think they're talking about 500,000 houses. As architects, the solutions are there, but you find, and Liz spoke about it, the thing that makes affordable housing very expensive, or rather housing as a whole, is #1, land and financing. Those 2 aspects. There's building materials, but there are solutions out there in the market. So it's not something new and something strange, but the cost of housing, that's why the affordable units usually are very far. So government must think about transport and public transport, in terms of mass transit that is efficient, that is clean. So I can live in Athi River and it takes me 20 minutes to come to the city. What does that do? It deflates in terms of you know, what has been skyrocketing land prices. Even in a tough year like 2017, the prices of land just continue to escalate, and it's not possible for people to, you know, then afford houses. And financing has to be thought of as well. So we look forward to government thinking outside the box in terms of financing and solving that problem of transport and infrastructure, because it really, that will unlock a lot of land outside in the suburbs. We're not the biggest city in the world. The biggest cities, there's the Tokyos of 40 million and the like, but they have efficient public transport, which means then that it opens up so much more. So very important. And I just look, we call it at AEK the Kenya we want, just seeing people, decent housing for everybody, for all, whether you're rich or poor, just a decent home for everybody. So we hope, we're excited, and we hope to see results and ripple effects even in private sector.
Thank you so much, Lucy, Liz, and Emma, for your insights. Hopefully it's an inspiration to a lot of women to come into the industry and not look at the risk factor as something that would deter them from bringing in their ideas to really help society and their communities. On that note, let's take a look at this. Diamond Property Merchants has a new project, a buy and build project called Ebenezer Gardens. Take a look at this.
My name is Jeff Mtinda, the Assistant Marketing Manager, Diamond Property Merchants. You are home of strategic land investment, and we're here to introduce to you our approach to investment, that is the buy and build investment. We give the client an opportunity to be involved in the process of owning a home. That is, you buy the property that we're selling to you, and then on the building aspect of it, we involve you. We give you the approved plans, we give you the architectures, we give you approved contractors that will make sure that from end to end we'll be able to monitor your project from the day that you're starting to build to the exit.
We have two projects along Kangundo Road. One is Ebenezer Garden, the second one is Eden Park. These projects will be able to take you through the buying and the building process, where we'll also be able to offer you supervision, consultancy, and even to the part that will be able to vet our contractors who will take care of your house for you. And therefore, at this juncture, welcome and hear from our client.
My name is Scholastica Mwikali, and I learned about Diamond Properties during a home expo in KICC in April last year. After that, I purchased a project at Eden Park, about 2 plots. Because at that time I was looking for investment, something to invest to buy a property. My experience so far is very good, because at that time I was looking for somewhere I could build a home, and the concept with Diamond Property was just excellent. It was what I was looking for. Because it's a gated community, and there, you know, when you're building a home, you need security and all that, and all the other facilities available. They are making it all possible for me. My motivation to get to this kind of project was because of the advantages that I would have gotten. For me, it was it is affordable, because a plot, if I was going to buy a house, I would probably spend 7 to 10 million. But now I have bought a plot, and I will build it with less than 6 million. I'm getting organized, prepared to start the project by the end of this month. And I'm really motivated, because I'm seeing other people building in that place, and I'm really excited to even start the building. The benefits of a buy and build investment is that Diamond Properties will give you pre-approved plans for the building. They will also give you consultancy, and also they will supervise the project for you from the beginning to the end.
Now that you've heard from our client who has invested with us at Diamond Property, I hereby now invite you to take the call to be able to invest with us in our project. Our project range from 600,000 to 1.4 million, depending on your choice. We have the choices for bungalows, and we also have choices for mansionettes, which range differently. Our houses will cost you between 1.6 million to 4.6 million. As a client, what we promise you is one, affordability, and the second important thing is flexibility. I now invite you to SMS the word home to 22002, and we'll be more than glad to serve you. At Diamond Property Merchants, we promise you affordability and flexibility. Thank you so much and welcome.
All right, and that does it for Victoria's Lounge. Thanks for watching. Thanks to the team. You don't see them, but we do here. They work extremely hard. And of course, thanks to you, the viewer. Keep the comments coming. Hashtag Victoria's Lounge on social media. Thank you to the Fairmont Norfolk for hosting us. Hey, let's do this again next week and have a lovely evening.